a very different world. I mean, we talk about the rise in technology in music and how it affects the rise of an artist. Right. And how do we get that artist and how do we get that content out to the public? To the people who want to hear it. Right. How do we get people enthralled with the stuff that we're putting out? That has categorically changed in the last 10 years. I mean, it's so different. I mean, if you were, obviously you sit down with a lot of these people. I mean, do you have like one big thing? Like, hey, before you even write your first song, if you're an aspiring artist, like what's the one piece of advice that you give them? Is it that you need to find yourself? Is it that they need to understand the business side? I mean, what's the most important thing just to get off the ground? I mean, if I'm not an aspiring artist, but I mean, if I was, like, what would be that advice that you give to somebody who's in that spot?
Yeah, I would say to like identify. I would say to like look at yourself and look at where your I heard an analogy with this lady. She had a big like vase. She had two vases. One of them was like perfect, and the other one was like broken and cracked and had holes in it. And she had them turn off the lights. And first she said, "Which one of these vases would you want?" Everybody's like, "This one, the nice one." And she had them turn off the lights, and then she pushed a button and a light came on, and there were lights inside of the vases, and she turned the lights on. And she was like, "Now which one do you want?" And they're like, "This one, the cracked one." And I've always thought about that, like if you can find where your holes are or where your breaks are, or your wounds or your weaknesses or your scars, those are the places where your light's going to shine through. But you have to. I believe that everybody carries a bag of rocks. Regardless of who you are, you got a little backpack and it has some rocks in it. Some people have one rock, some people have two boulders, some people have a whole bunch of really tiny pebbles, some people have a little, like a pound of sand. But everybody has their different things that they're carrying. And I feel like the more sometimes people with a lot of rocks in their bag get frustrated because they see people with an empty bag running circles around them around this racetrack that we call life. And they can't understand why these people get to just breeze through life and everything is so easy. And what my job is, or my goal and my dream is to teach people that bag of rocks is definitely making you stronger. The problem is you cannot access that strength until you learn how to get those rocks out of that bag.
That's right.
And I believe that art is a way of processing those rocks and getting rid of them and healing yourself from that pain that you've been through. I think that it's important to go through stuff and to experience stuff and to experience resistance and go through the crucible. But you got to do the work afterwards to get right. Or you cannot tap into that strength. Once you let those rocks go, then now you can run a mile a minute. But as long as you're holding on to those rocks, you don't know how strong you are. You don't know that you're the strongest person on this racetrack because you're still carrying around what you've been through. So I want people to use music and use art or whatever thing inspires you. If it doesn't have to be a creative thing. It could be like real estate, like the feeling of like finding a property. I don't really know anything about how real estate works, but like, just say something that sounds crazy, but like whatever things that you get out of that, like finding that joy and using that to heal the stuff that you've been through. I think that's I feel like as far as creativity goes and music goes and the arts goes, I feel like that's my way of changing the world one person at a time, is like going and teaching people how to start from nothing and get to something, get to the point where you can make a living off of what you love to do. So when I talk with them, I usually teach them about, or talk to them about just how they're doing emotionally and mentally, and make sure that they're healthy. And
that's so huge.
Because I don't feel like you can grow professionally outside of where you are personally. And if you do, and if you get this gigantic crown that you're not strong enough to carry, it'll crush you. So you got to do the work that it takes to like be able to carry whatever you're supposed to have. It's usually like mental health stuff and again, I'm pretty sensitive, so I can usually tell when something's wrong or somebody's been through something, and I don't have any. My mom. I told you my mom had a lot of different jobs. My mom was a counselor and a therapist for a good part of most of my life growing up. So I didn't know that she was using those things on me when she was getting me to express how I felt about and getting in touch with how I feel and talk about my emotions. And she's also always a great listener, so she taught me how to listen. So you wouldn't believe some of the people that come into the studio and sit down with me and tell me the wildest stories.
Oh, I bet. Yeah.
Oh my goodness gracious! All the people that when I was growing up in the neighborhood I grew up in, and the people that were doing the most dangerous stuff and the wildest stuff, I always like secretly wanted to like be a part of that. And they're so tough and cool and brave.
Right.
But like I realized that like I didn't have to go through that because I got to meet those people later on and learn from those stories.
Yep.
And see the damage that their experiences did to them, but also like I got to get the jewels and the gems that they got out of it.
Totally.
So it's not just like new artists and people that are like just getting into music. There's some people that are 50 years old that are still rapping and were doing work and stuff back in the day. So
we talk about finding yourself before you start producing content. I think there's in today's society there's such a external factor that says the love of the public, the love of the consumer is what drives our attention. And so they get so married to that idea that they say, well, I didn't get as many likes on this song, or, you know, I'm not popping here. And and they let that affect who they are as opposed to being driven by their true north and saying, you know what, I'm doing this for me. I wake up every morning, look at myself in the mirror and say, I'm doing this because it's what I love. It's what I'm passionate about. And they're not controlled by that. I think that's a really big thing. And I think by starting the conversation by saying, no, we're not going to go in the studio in day one. We're going to start in the green room and we're going to talk about our passion. We're going to talk about why we're even sitting in this room right now. And by establishing that, you're setting up such a better trajectory, you know, such a better path because it's for the right reason. Right? Yep. If I'm trying to be a rapper just because I want a Lambo on Instagram, like that isn't sustainable. You're never going to win that game.
No, and if
not to say that you can't have that or that's not a bad thing. Like, look, I'm all about it, right? But it's, you know, motivation is a big piece of that. And I think by starting that conversation because of all those external factors, right? If I go on YouTube and look at rap videos, you know, I don't think I can truly identify their passion, their motivation through that. It's they're balling, right? Which, look, again, I'm all about, but at this level, it's a different game.
Right. You need a solid foundation to build something that big.
It's huge.
Or it'll fall apart.
God, that's so huge, man.
Yeah.
Respect.